let's talk about the Mets. Through 8 games, the first 8 games of the season, the Mets have lost games in which they had a 75%, 79%, 95%, and 97% chance to win. Yikes. So you could say we should have 4 more wins at this point. We just lost tonight 2-1 to the Nats. So we're now 7-11. So everyone gets a free Slurpee. I think that's the deal, right? The bullpen is a major reason why through those first 8 games that we had a chance and let it slip away. It was Diaz, but that was July. And you look at August, and things are different. Let me see if I can find this stat. I think this is before the weekend, this past weekend. The Mets bullpen over the last 3 games leading up to August 7th, 10 innings pitched, 5 hits, 0 earned runs, 5 walks, 10 Ks. And that's exactly what you want. And I think a big reason why that has happened is partially due to Jared Hughes, partially due to Edwin Diaz not being completely atrocious, like somehow escaping. He's so frustrating to watch. I'm flummoxed by watching him because he'll make 2 people look silly in the batter's box. Just silly, swinging through stuff, not even close. And then the wheels just fall off for like 3 hitters. And then he'll buckle down and he'll punch another guy out. Very weird. But the bullpen has come on fairly strong. And of course, right when the pitching starts to come through and starts to be dependable, reliable, the offense goes to complete shit. Of course, the big stories since we last talked, Yoenis Cespedes opted out, apparently, and Marcus Stroman has opted out. We didn't know he opted out. The team didn't know he opted out. Some players had a suspicion that he had opted out. The coach had no idea he opted out. That was an interesting few hours. I see on Twitter the statement from Brodie, hasn't shown up, hasn't contacted us. My initial thought wasn't, oh my God, is Yo okay? And that's on me because my empathy is severely lacking and I'm trying to work on it, trying to put myself in other people's shoes. And I since deleted the tweet because it doesn't need to be up there, but I'm going to own it. I tweeted out, police are on, retweeted the statement from Brodie and I put, police are on the lookout for this suspect. And I put an animated GIF of a wild boar. Knowing what we know now, pretty funny. But at the moment, we didn't know what the hell was going on. He was considered a missing person by the team and by the organization. And so there was a possibility that he could be dead. And people, even like Clem joked about it. I think most jaded, cynical Mets fans who have been through the ringer and this fucking shit show 3-ring circus of a season all kind of had that same make a joke response. Because why not pile that on? Why won't Yo just totally not show up to the ballpark? Of course, he's probably out on the golf course or something. That's the initial thought. The initial thought wasn't, oh my God, is he dead? Has he been kidnapped? Anything like that. My mind did not go there. But other people, they did think that way. And they were saying, I hope he's okay. And then you start to see more and more of that come through your timeline. You're like, ooh, okay. So I deleted it because you don't need that out there. You don't need that bad juju out there. People have been fired for less, so uncanceled for less. And I'm pretty sure I'm already canceled. I've been fired more times than I care for. Probably halfway through the game or more, we still hadn't had word, but the Mets tried to cover it up by saying he's healthy. We know he's okay, but we have not been in contact with him. And it just devolved from there. So I don't think people are against athletes opting out for health reasons because they want to take care of family, themselves during this really just insane time. Not faulting anyone for that. But Jesus Christ, dude, give the team a heads up. Who knows how it plays out or how it's different if the Mets weren't, what the hell was their record at the time? 3-8. They had a really bad losing record, 3-7, 3-8. On top of that, Yo was really struggling. At one point he was 2 for 15 with 9 strikeouts, was just like, whoa, dude. But to opt out the way he did, it's just odd. Very, very odd. Contract year, DH. So you don't have to worry about playing the field and hurting yourself in the field. You can just really focus on mashing the ball and getting that big money in the offseason as a DH. Who knows if he'll fetch the kind of money that he could have if he put on a show, but he didn't. And so he opted out, citing coronavirus. But then you see stories come out afterwards from like the New York Post saying he was unhappy with the team limiting his reps, limiting his at-bats, limiting his playing time because his contract was laden with performance incentives and bonuses. So the more he's not in the line, the less he's in the lineup, well, then the less money he's owed. Understandable. But dude, we're not going to play you if you're not hitting the ball. You can't go 2 for 15. And I know people have cited, well, Pete Alonso he's hitting well below the Mendoza, and he's still in the lineup day in and day out. It's just different. Yo hasn't played in 2 years. Pete's probably more in a sophomore slump psychologically, where his woes are carrying into the field and he's making errors in the field because mentally he's just all over the place. And Keith Hernandez pointed out that his swing is just different this year. His hands aren't as steady. There's a lot of movement coming through on the swing, and that might be part of it. So you could make an argument, and I've said this, why not just sit Pete, have Dom, or have Pete just be a DH where, he's not taking his thoughts into the field and making errors in the field. So you have Dom at first and have Pete DH. People have said it's extremely irresponsible of the Mets to make it sound like Yo was missing and possibly in some sort of danger. They walked it back and said he's not in danger, but as usual, Mets are making it worse. And like Brodie's press conference was just one for the ages, saying that he wasn't trying to shame Yo, that he was just trying to be transparent in real time. And sure, I guess I could buy into that. If they don't report it, is the press like chomping at the bit even more? Like, why hasn't anyone said anything? What's going on here? Would the madness would it be even more out of hand? The speculation and hearsay and all ruminations and all that? Or could you have worded it better? Yeah, probably. And then there was this tweet. What a way to end the career of Yoenis Cespedes with the Mets. He came in, lit the city on fire in a run to the World Series, re-signed and took less at one point to stay. And then it was a rocky road with some crazy twists. And it ends with an opt-out. Here are his final totals of his 4-year, $110 million deal, which with BV Dubs as his agent from 2017 to 2020. So 4-ish, should have been 4 total seasons, but ended up being 3 in whatever you call this season. Yo played 127 games, had 28 home runs and 75 RBIs. I mean, when you see those numbers, it really just, it gets under your skin. And he still had problems and issues with the money and the contract and not getting played. It's like, dude, I don't know what to tell you. If the Mets were 8-3 and he wasn't seeing playing time, would he have stuck around? If they're 3-8, but he's just hitting the shit out of the ball, does he stay? If we're 8-3 at that point or whatever we were, and it's a huge winning record, we're in first place, we're up by a handful of games, and he's tearing the cover off the ball, no fucking way does he opt out. It was a culmination of things. Poor performance tied to money, poor performance of the team, poor performance on individually, and then all culminated, and he was just like, nah. Apparently Brandon Nimmo caught wind. Yo was unhappy with it and that he was going to opt out. But Luis Rojas had no clue, and it completely shocked them. And Brodie Van Wagenen had no idea. It's not healthy. Not a healthy clubhouse. I'm actually kind of shocked the season's still going on. I would have thought it would have been canceled, I think, last Monday. They were saying that they were thinking about Rob Manfred was threatening to cancel it because players weren't taking it seriously, and players here and there still aren't taking it seriously, which makes you wonder why they didn't go with the bubble approach after all. But because you have guys traveling to party with some friends, driving up, partying, and then trying to fly back with the team. And it's like, you can't do that, dude. I think Linda Cohn put out this tweet. I forget who, but the more teams that play themselves out of playoff contention, the list of players opting out due to COVID concerns will rise. It's like, yeah, if that's an option, people are going to take it, especially when there's no point in playing and you're completely out of it. If it's not canceled before the end of the regular season, the end of the regular season is going to be super duper interesting. But part of me thinks that if the Mets do go on to turn it around, they were 6-9, 7-9. They were basically tied for the second wild card spot. So as shitty as they've played and as much as they've looked awful, they're still somehow in the wild card hunt. And you look at the rest of the NL East. I mean, despite the Marlins at one point being 7-1, they have a bunch of guys making major league debuts that were playing AA ball last season, and they have to make up all the games that they missed because of COVID. So you're looking at them having to play a ton of games in a short amount of time. You have the Cardinals who have to play something like 55 games in 45 days or something like that. How is it even possible? You just don't get a day off, and you have to play double headers. I mean, eventually they're going to drop like flies, or they're just going to succumb and say, throw in the towel. My brain's conflicted because the mantra that we got to believe, the Barstool Mets podcast, Clem and KFC and Kyle have been saying is like, the season is fraudulent anyway, and Uncle Stevie's coming, referencing Steve Cohen. buying the team. But it's almost like a badge of honor to win this season, because it's just, if your team can survive all this craziness, you almost can't put an asterisk on it. You almost put like 2 asterisks and say, yeah, season was short, but goddamn. Trying to fight off a disease while playing ball under tense circumstances with limited time off, with all kinds of schedule changes and this and that. It's like, I almost think it's like an even more heralded championship than just a regular season World Series championship. That is an ultimate spin zone on my part. Credit to me. The other major storyline I touched on, other than Stro, is our offense just becoming straight up anemic. We got runners in scoring position. That one game where Yo was missing and no one knew what the hell was going on, something like 1 for 12 with runners in scoring position. I saw this stat. Mets are hitting 172, 10 for 58 with runners in scoring position during their 5-game losing streak. Yikes. The Mets have had 2 or more runners on with less than 2 outs in 5 of the first 6 innings. I think that was on that Sunday. I don't know. I don't even know how to fix that. I think guys just, with no one on base, the guys have a more relaxed approach at the plate. And then when they get guys on base, ducks in the pond, they just tense up and they try to mash the ball. And it's like, you just put it in play. I mean, give us something. Bases loaded, no outs, 1 out, just hit a fucking fly ball. It's easier said than done, but I think there's a stat that I'm gonna throw out there pretty soon that should illustrate just how much the offense sucks in certain situations. But then we had a bunch of injuries at the beginning of last week. McNeil with lower back tightness, which he came back from. Rosario with left quad tightness, which he came back from. Cano with left groin tightness, which, say what you will about Cano, but he was actually the best hitter on the team during that losing slump, that losing streak. He had 13 hits in his last 22 at bats at one point. But he's on the DL, but those injuries afforded opportunities to some guys, and it shook up the lineup and the roster a little bit, and it feels like it has a little more success. Gimenez at second or short, and then you have JD Davis at third, which he made some outstanding plays at third. I'd still like to see Dom get more playing time at first. And then they went and got Billy Hamilton. Could have grabbed Billy Hamilton off the pile this past winter, and now it cost them Humphreys. It's weird the Mets made the trade for Billy Hamilton before knowing Cespedes was opting out for the season. Just a weird coincidence. Weird coincidence indeed. Those are a couple of tweets that I saw about Hamilton. Yeah, I mean, I thought we should have got him when he wouldn't cost us a prospect. For some reason, I held on to the belief that Brandon Nimmo was a average to above average center fielder, and then I watched him struggle with ball after ball over the weekend. Just balls that should be caught, balls that he had such a hard read on. Anything hit directly at him, it's just like, forget about it. So with Marisnick still on the IL, which, Jesus fucking Christ, Marisnick, they went and got Hamilton. So he provides a boost in center field, boost on the base paths. If he gets on base, he just can't hit the ball. And I don't know about his arm either. So, and it cost us a player. So, I mean, Brodie Van Wagenen, I think at this point, you got to give him an F for sure. I think that there's no real bouncing back from this unless this team can turn around and, I guess, win a championship. But Jesus, man, the moves he's made have been awful. This is a tweet I saw. He has now traded 6 prospects to get Keon Broxton, no longer with the team, Jake Marisnick on the IL, and Billy Hamilton. Types of players available on waivers or on minor league deals. Not a good use of resources. Agreed. Our offseason additions this past offseason, Jake Marisnick on the IL, Mike Waka with a 6.0 ERA. This is before his most recent start where he didn't fare well. Rick Porcello had like a 13.5 ERA before his last 2 starts. So I think his ERA is hovering under 6 now because he had a pretty good performance the other night, I think against the Marlins, and then tonight 6 innings, 8 hits, 2 earned, 5 Ks. I mean, that should be enough to win the game, in my opinion. So I'm not going to fault him for that. But his ERA is down below 6 now. So maybe he's turned a corner. It's just the first couple games, it was like, ooh. And then Dellin Betances had almost an ERA of 16 before this most recent week. So not looking great for BV Dubs. I would be shocked if he's with the team after this season. I think he's done so much goddamn damage. You think about the prospects we've given up, Kalenic, Tony Buckets, Simeon Richardson, whatever, especially now given the situation with our starting rotation and with Stro opting out. Yay. Of course, the defense hasn't helped things. Well, before Gimenez, I think with Gimenez and Davis in the field, we are faring better. But the best and worst defensive teams by UZR, a friggin' stat I've never heard of in my life, ultimate zone rating. So apparently someone has taken the time to divide the field up into zones, and this is used to measure fielding. So they compare the event that actually happened, hit, out, or error, to data on similarly hit balls in the past to determine how much better or worse the fielder did than the quote-unquote average player. At the top of the list, the Orioles, plus 3.9. Then you have the Twins, A's, Rockies, Cubs. Bottom of the list, the bottom of the bottom. Mariners at minus 2.3. Astros at minus 2.8. Reds at minus 2.9. Royals at minus 5.4. And Los Mets, the Metros, at minus 6.5. And that's what happens when you have outfielders in the infield and a center fielder who shouldn't be in center field and a second baseman at third. And I mean, when everyone's playing out of position, you cannot expect good results. And, you know, if you had just average players in those positions, who knows what our record would be right now? Who knows what our record would be if we just played average ball? And this goes in line with what I was saying before. The Mets have scored 4 runs for Jacob deGrom on not his most recent start, but the one before. deGrom is 21-17 in 66 starts since 2018. Had New York been able to score 4 runs per game for him in those starts, he would have been 59-3 with 4 no decisions. And there would be zero argument about him being the best pitcher in Major League Baseball. With his 67th career victory, deGrom passed Steve Traxel on the Mets all-time win list, which it's like it makes me what? Short circuit thinking that Traxel and deGrom are mentioned in the same sentence. It took Traxel 160 starts to get to 66 victories, and it took Jake 174 to reach 67. Ugh, I feel so bad for him because he's so good to pitch and he's just getting better. It's bonkers. The guy is like regularly hitting 99 and 100 on the fucking gun with his fastball. It's just, I mean, and it might be a little too fast. He's got that blister issue on his finger that that put a scare into everyone on his start against the Marlins over the weekend. John Olerud turned 52, and I bring that up because of this stat. He received 0.7% of Hall of Fame votes his only time on the ballot, which is a travesty. Dude hit 500 doubles, 255 home runs, over 1,200 RBIs, won 3 Gold Gloves, and had I don't even know what that stat is, but it's a pretty good stat. Also walked more than 1,200 times. And underrated, cool guy, cool Olerud move is when he walked. I don't know what it is, but every time he walked, he always had like the very effortless like toss of the bat to the dugout. It was almost like it's like he's emulating his swing, but it's just tossing it to the dugout. There's got to be like a second coming to Jesus redemption vote for the Hall of Fame. I feel like there are so many guys we talk about that should be in the Hall of Fame. They should all be put on all of those guys should be put on a ballot each year until they all make it in. Basically is what I'm getting at. John Olerud, before he meets his maker, should be in the Hall of Fame. There, I said it. We mentioned Rick Porcello. His numbers tonight, his numbers in the previous start, 7 innings, 5 hits, 1 earned, 4 Ks, and 81 pitches, which tells you how bad he was at the beginning of the season, that he's putting up those kind of numbers tonight in the start before. My confidence in Porcello is back. My confidence in Matz is out the door, out the window. All this hype and all this talk we had coming into the season, like this is Matz, is going to turn around. He's just got to be consistent. I think he's learned from his mistakes, blah, blah. And then he gets his fucking shit pushed in against the Nats. I just don't see him as a reliable, viable starter in our rotation. But what are you going to do? He's like now our number 2, now that Stroh has opted out. Fucking Stroman, man. He pitched 4 or 5 innings in a simulated game. It looked great. They had the pitching ninja, Rob Friedman, like tweeting out animated GIFs of just like electric sliders and changeups, and he just looks so good. And he's very vocal on social media, Stroman is, and you got hype about him returning. Like he's gonna come back. Like, okay, we don't have Thor. Waka's now in the IL. Lost Wheeler. Like we really need. Matz is kind of shaky. Porcello's iffy. Would really be nice to get Stroh back in the swing of things. And then he's like, oh nope, I'm opting out. Like. Fucking A, man. Fucking A. So what's the upshot? This kid claims to be a Mets fan. He grew up playing against Mats, so him and Mats are buddies. And this is the tweet that is really the nail in the coffin. In the end, the Mets traded Anthony Kay, Tony Buckets, who's already a serviceable major league pitcher, and Simeon Woods Richardson, who scouts really like and think can be a major league starter, for 11 games of Marcus Stroman on what wound up being a third place team. I mean, you could go back and forth on this. The debate rages on. We were not in contention when we made the trade. We then went on a fucking tear and were in a position to be, we were in the playoff hunt. We were in the race. We were there. It didn't pan out like we would wanted, but we were on pace and we were tearing it up. And if we got into the playoffs, like if the playoff rules from this year were in effect last year, we would have made some waves, but we didn't. And he didn't really make, I mean, for all the hoopla and like the noise that came with Marcus Stroman and the hype and whatever, he didn't really pitch that well down the stretch. And it just sucks, dude. It just sucks. And he's going to go into free agency. Like, and I understand you want to look out for yourself. You want to look out for your family and you're opting out, but it's like, motherfucker, like why now? Why when you're healthy? Why now? Is it because you look at the team and you don't see a competitor? You don't like what's going on with the organization. There's something outside of, oh, well, it's just COVID. It's coronavirus. It's becoming, as many people have said, I guess you have to respect the decision. You know, you have to look out for your health and whatnot. But at the same time, it seems like it's a cop-out now. The opt-out is a cop-out, as they say. So where does that leave our pitching rotation? Where does that leave our starting rotation? It almost doesn't matter who you throw out there to pitch because we don't hit the ball. We have zero offense, 0 for 4 with runners in scoring possession with 7 left on base today. There's zero production in that lineup. So it doesn't matter who you throw out there. I mean, we got our pitchers, starting pitchers and bullpen giving us really good efforts, and the offense is just not producing. So not looking great for the Mets right now, except for there's a couple bright spots. I'm going to try and end on a good note here for all y'all. Jared Hughes, 3 2/3 innings, a hit, 0 runs and 5 strikeouts. This was as of August 9th. We already gave you Edwin Diaz's numbers in August so far. Not bad. So the pitching staff coming along. Mets are 1-4 at home this year. This was before the weekend stand with the Marlins. 1-4 at home with a 5.28 ERA and a 673 OPS, which is like average, below average. So who's producing? I mean, Jeff McNeil has a bunch of multi-hit games. Michael Conforto and Brandon Nimmo reached base safely in all 13 games up to the 13th game. Nimmo had reached in 28 straight games going back to last season. So you got those guys. But the bright spot for me that he gives me a feeling similar to Jose Reyes when he first came up, David Wright when he first came up. I guess you could put him in the same camp as Alonso. If we're talking across sports, he gives me that same feeling as Saquon Barkley, as Odell, and that's Andres Gimenez. Should Gimenez continue getting starts? Absolutely. And I said that last week. Just keep Cano on the bench if you can. Maybe put him at DH now. I think that's might be the best answer. Try and alternate him and Alonso at DH, depending on who's on the bump. But Gimenez has to be in the field, either at short or at second, every single game. The guy is making outstanding plays in the field, and he's hitting the ball, and he's smart about it. The drag bunt that he got to hit, he's had, I don't know how many triples he has so far. Here's a list of Mets with 3 hits, 3 runs, and 1 stolen base in a game before their 22nd birthday. Jose Reyes in 05, Jose Reyes in 04, Ed Kranepool in 63, and Andre Gimenez. Most hits by a rookie this season. Kyle Lewis, 21, Lewis Robert, 19, Phillip Evans, 14, Andre Gimenez, 11. Oh boy. Oh. Oh, the power of Christ compels me. I don't know how you sit this guy. He's just electric to watch. Fun guy, enthusiastic. He's a headlight. He's a spark plug. He provides that jolt that the offense so desperately needs right now. That I can't see why you would take him out. The offense is just struggling right now. And I'm not sure what it's going to take for them to get back on board. But it's like, if this team could just click at the same time, it seems like that always seems to be the issue. If the pitching is the issue, then the hitting is not the issue. If the hitting is the issue, pitching is not the issue. They can't coordinate. They can't calibrate. And if they do, it's not going to take a lot to make the playoffs. Just make the playoffs, and then, it's a whole nother ballgame. Literally. Good God. They're entertaining, I'll say that. There's never a dull moment with these assholes.